Morning everyone. I've got top of the hour, so let's crack on and get stuck straight in. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar, Why Marketing for Small Business Fails and How to Fix It. A big thank you to Craig and Physio Control for making this possible. Craig and I have been working for a little while now on this, and I'm really pleased that Physio Control has asked me to be part of this initiative. I think it's a fantastic initiative. Today is the launch of the Marketing Makeover, and I promise you that I will do everything I can to ensure you get the maximum amount of value out of our time together, excuse me, out of our time together today. Gee, I hope that doesn't become a problem for me later on. So let's get stuck straight into it. And let me start by telling you this. Everything you've ever learned or been taught about generating leads and growing your business is wrong. Everything. And what I want to do today, in this presentation today, I want to teach you a system for marketing your business to a point where it becomes instantly obvious to your prospects that they would have to be mad to do business with anyone other than you at anywhere, anytime, or at any price. For example, let's say you're a chiropractor and you've just spent more than $10,000 on radio advertising. You spent an entire weekend with your audio crew in your office interviewing your staff, explaining your facility, and getting the entire production just right for prime time on your local station. And after all that work, effort and expense, you ran the ad for several weeks, your phone only rang 15 times, and those ads resulted in producing just one single patient at $1,900. How would you feel after investing $10,000 and winding up with a net loss of $8,100 you'll never get back? Not to mention all the time, effort, and energy you wasted. But let me ask you this. What if you could take just $1,300 of that marketing budget and, just by changing what your radio ad says, instead of getting just 15 calls resulting in only one sale, you could generate 137 calls, convert 37 of those calls into brand new paying patients, each one worth an average of $2,500, and pocket a cool $92,500 for your trouble. That's what's called getting more results, making more income for the same time, the same money, and the same effort spent. Just consider for a second what the impact on your business would be if you could do this. So let me show you how to leverage what you're already doing and how you can get those exact same results for your business just by changing the way you do all of your marketing and advertising. But I'm not talking about radical changes, just simple common sense changes that will enable you to exponentially leverage your marketing's results. That $10,000 marketing budget the chiropractor was spending remained the same whether he got 15 calls or 137 calls. Now, I'm going to show you exactly how to get those same results with your marketing and in the process give you a significant competitive advantage. That chiropractor example I gave you is a real example of a real client we have. So in this short presentation, I'm going to teach you how to achieve massive leverage with your marketing, meaning simply that you'll make more money for the same time, the same investment, and the same effort you're expending right now. And why will you have a significant competitive advantage? Because most businesses simply don't know how to do this. They don't understand the tremendous untapped potential that lies within their current marketing. Most businesses today spend some money on marketing and advertising and then decide that whatever the result, that's probably about as good as it's going to get. They realize that their results can fluctuate up and down, but they never imagine the results like the chiropractor where he got 137 calls instead of 15, and they never imagine these are even remotely possible. Well, I'm here to tell you guys point blank that nothing could be further from the truth. The marketing system I'm going to teach you today is based on unchanging principles of human nature that dictate that people always want to make the best buying decision possible, and therefore marketing's job, your job, is not to yak on incessantly about how great you are or how low your prices are. Your job is to position your prospective buyer so that they have total control over the decision-making process based on them having enough quantity and quality of information to determine that they're receiving the most value for the price they pay. Today I'm going to teach you some really simple and easy to understand concepts that will truly transform your marketing and advertising. I'm going to introduce you to some common sense marketing principles that will give you a clear vision of what your marketing is supposed to look like, and just as importantly, what it's not supposed to look like. I want to show you the formula and strategies that will allow you to produce world-class marketing. I want you to see the possibilities for your business and what a significant competitive advantage you could hold when you implement it. So let's get started. There's two main components to any marketing plan. There's the strategic marketing and tactical marketing. Strategic marketing is the content of your message. It's what you say and how you say it, including the concepts you focus on, the words, the images you use to communicate those concepts, and the tone in which the message is delivered. Tactical marketing, on the other hand, has to do with the execution of the strategic marketing, such as placing ads, building websites, attending trade shows, and stuff like that. If I ask a business owner about their marketing plan, the answer almost always comes back in terms of tactical marketing. They send direct mail, they run radio ads, they create a website, those kind of things. But the key to effective marketing, is to master the strategic side, not the tactical side. What you say in your marketing and how you say it are almost always more important than the marketing medium where you say it. Now, both are important, of course, but the real leverage is in the messaging itself, and that's the strategic side of marketing. In fact, when a marketing campaign bombs, the tendency is almost always to blame the marketing medium, like the TV or the radio station, which is the tactical part of the plan, without any regard for how good or bad the actual strategy behind the marketing piece was. During this presentation, you'll learn how to say things in a way that will make a profound difference to your marketing. This system has been successfully implemented in well over 400 different industries. In fact, we even used it to help a $10 per hour dog walker to build his business to over $500,000. It works with all size businesses, from startups clear up to blue chip companies, but our true passion lie with working with small and medium-sized businesses who have little to no marketing budget. So let me ask you this simple question. What's the actual purpose of marketing? I mean, what's marketing really supposed to do? Well, in a nutshell, marketing is supposed to help facilitate your prospects' decision-making process. There are prospects out there that need to buy what you sell. Sometimes they need to be educated to the fact that they need to buy what you sell in the first place. And other times, they already know they want it, but they need help deciding who they should buy it from. Often they think they might want what you sell, but they have questions and concerns that need to be overcome before they'll pull their money out of their pockets. But consider this. Because these prospects are not experts in what you do, or their exposure to what you sell is quite low, they don't really know the relevant issues surrounding the purchase. They don't know how to make the best decision. They can't tell the difference between the best deal and a major mistake, which leaves an opportunity for you to provide them with this information and then guide them through the buying process. So consider this example. Throughout your life, how many sunrooms have you ever bought? Now, some of you might be going, I don't even know what a sunroom is, but let's just stick with the theme here for a second. How many sunrooms have you bought? Have you bought 5, 2, 1, or like 99% of the population, 0? Let's assume you fall into the 99% group who've never bought a sunroom. Do you have any idea whatsoever how to buy a sunroom? Can you tell the difference between a $10,000 and a $25,000 sunroom just by looking at it? Of course you can't. Now, when people buy what you guys sell, they're generally speaking just as clueless about what you're selling as you are about sunrooms. So your job, put simply, is to facilitate your prospects' decision-making process. Listen, this is actually pretty simple. All prospects and customers want the exact same thing, and it really doesn't matter what type of business you have. They want to know that their money was well spent and they made the best decision. They want the best deal possible, not just the best price, but the best deal in terms of overall value. People instinctively want to make the best decision and not feel like they've got to second guess themselves. All you have to do as a marketer is to figure out what's important to your prospects, educate them as to what constitutes the best deal when it comes to buying what you sell. Remember, value. And then show them quantifiable proof you actually provide the best deal in terms of price and value. And all of this has to be communicated to them in a way they'll pay attention to, believe in, and then take action on. When this occurs, the prospect gets what they really want from you, complete confidence that they've actually made the best decision possible, and they have truly gotten the best value. But here's the problem. Instead of using marketing to educate and facilitate the decision-making process and build the case as to why a product or service is the best on the market, most businesses fill their marketing with self-serving jargon that's only a thinly veiled way of saying, buy it from me because I want you to give me your money instead of my competition. That's why people become jaded, and that's why they resist marketing. They tend to either dismiss your entire marketing message, or worse, they become skeptical and stop paying attention to the message altogether. Prospective buyers want and need to be educated so they can feel confident when making their purchase decision, and no one's providing it. But here's the good news. The first one who does provide prospects with this information wins all the most profitable customers available. When marketing is done improperly, the end result is 100% predictable. You start to feel intense pricing pressure from your prospects, and typically you're forced to cave in, lower your prices, destroy your margins, and make way less money than you should just to stay competitive. And you get to spend more time at work and away from your family. So here's the truth of it, and please don't be offended by this, but if you're always competing on price, it's your own fault. Your lack of marketing ability has led to a situation where there's no discernible difference between you and your competition. There's been no additional parameters or relevant issues introduced to educate your prospects as to what really constitutes the best value when it comes to buying what you guys sell. If you feel like you're always competing on price, it's because price is the only relevant variable that you've given your prospects to consider. From the prospect's perspective, all things appear equal, so they default to the business offering the lowest price. I'm about to show you guys how to fix that once and for all. Simply put, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to innovate and market your business. I'll show you first how to create better marketing, and second, how to do better marketing that will allow you to position your business as the obvious choice for your prospective customers. So consider this, there's actually two sides to your business. First, there's what I call the inside reality, and second, what I call the outside perception. The inside reality encompasses everything you do and everything that makes your business great. It's all of your skills, the people who work for you, your expertise, the way you service your customers before, during, and after the sale. It's your system, your operational procedures, your commitment to excellence. It's your passion and the way you conduct your business on a daily basis. Add all these together and they equal your value to the marketplace. That's what I call the inside reality. So how's your inside reality? If I ask your customers why they buy from you, they could probably tell you something, or if you ask them why they buy from you, they could probably tell you something quantifiable, specific, and instantly obvious. They could point to specific benefits they enjoy when doing business with you. They'd say things like, that's why I do business here, that's why I refer my friends to come here, and that's why I'm a loyal customer, that's why I keep coming back. That's your inside reality. So your inside reality is all about what you do and what you are that allows you to perform better. However, your outside perception has to do with how customers and prospects perceive your business. The outside perception is developed through the interactions that your prospects and customers have with your business. Your customers will draw on their past buying experiences with you to form an outside perception of your business. But here's the problem. If you provide unmatched, brilliant customer service and your customers absolutely love you, none of that matters to your prospective customers if, number one, they don't even know you exist as an option, or number two, they see your marketing and advertising, and because of your inability to market your business properly, their perception is that you're no different or no better or no worse than your competitors. I'd estimate that well over 95% of all businesses are completely inept when it comes to marketing, and the end result is that your inside reality and your outside perception are perceived to be different. You see, regardless of how good you are, regardless of your inside reality, your prospect isn't going to be able to figure out your true inside reality based on your marketing. You simply appear to be just another business that sells whatever it is that you sell. And don't say, well, that's okay because I'm a really good salesperson and when I get in front of my prospect I can educate them and close the sale. That's a great theory, but I can flat out guarantee that even the best salesperson in the world is never going to close a prospect who doesn't know you exist and therefore never bothers to call you in the first place. Remember, our chiropractor 137 calls versus 15 calls. That's an extra 122 calls a month. These are people who are not calling this chiropractor prior to him changing his marketing. How can you close people who never call you? Obviously, you can't. That's why your marketing must do the heavy lifting for you. Let your marketing deliver eager, qualified prospects into your sales funnel. But here's even worse news, guys. Competition today is more fierce now than it's ever been. How many competitors do you have right now? Because that's how many choices your prospects have and how many additional businesses they have to filter through as they try and reach a buying decision. And by the way, the internet has only made the problem worse. Have you noticed lately that everyone's going bonkers for online marketing, SEO, pay-per-click, Facebook, social marketing, and rightfully so. Most prospects are so busy these days that most of them start their buying process by researching online. In fact, recent research indicates that 57% of the buying process is done online before a prospect even reaches out or contacts a potential supplier. But here's the sad reality for businesses advertising online. They spend a ton of their time, effort and money just getting prospects to their website, and guess what their prospects see when they get there? The same old lame junk like service quality and dependability that they saw in their lame brochures before the internet was invented, as well as the same lame junk that all their competitors have on their websites. These businesses then complain about the high bounce rates, then try and figure out how to get better qualified traffic to the site. The reality is they're probably already getting enough qualified traffic to their site, but they fail to realize that it's their lame website that's not converting their prospects. That's the real problem. Everyone looks at the internet as the be-all and end-all to their marketing, but the reality is that the internet is just another medium to screw up your marketing with bland messages that do nothing to facilitate the decision-making process of your prospects. Yes, the internet is an important tool in your marketing arsenal, but you need to have a great website, and that means you better fix your strategic messaging that I've been talking about, or you're going to fail. Now, there's an old saying that goes like this. If you want to know what Jane Doe buys, what Jane Doe buys, you've got to see the world through Jane Doe's eyes. But the problem is that while most businesses are very good at knowing what Jane Doe wants, because they aren't communications experts, they don't have the ability to communicate through their advertising and marketing their inside reality to the outside world. They can't lead their prospects to say, I'd have to be mad to do business with anyone but you at any time, anywhere, or at any price. We've been successfully generating leads for business owners now for more than 20 years, and it's been my experience that most businesses could stand some improvement in both their inside reality and their outside perception, but for some reason they struggle the most with their outside perception. In other words, they've got great businesses. Most of them offer exceptional value. They have a good inside reality, a great inside reality, but with all the competition that exists, they have a major problem differentiating themselves from the rest of their marketplace. They're simply not getting the value of their business across to those on the outside looking in. What about you? What's your outside perception? Go grab your marketing, take a look at your ads, take a look at your website. Is it instantly obvious, specifically and quantifiably, what it is that makes your business better and unique and different? Do you show your prospects how to judge your industry, what factors they need to consider when deciding what to buy, and how you provide greater value than any of your competitors? You'll realize as these concepts start to sink in that the crux of most marketing problems, including yours, can probably be wrapped up in this one simple statement. Most businesses' outside perception is not an accurate reflection of their inside reality. So I'm going to show you how and why this is happening and what you can do to fix it forever. I told you at the beginning of this presentation that everything you know about generating leads and growing your business is wrong. Let me clarify what that statement means based on what we've discussed so far. Everything you currently know about marketing does not effectively allow you to accurately and succinctly portray your inside reality to the outside world. Now, this is a product of decades of being conditioned to do marketing the wrong way. In the very early days of advertising, I'm talking about the sort of the late 1800s, early 1900s, much of the advertising that existed back then was comparative in nature. Ads wouldn't just say, hey, we're better. They'd say we're better and here's exactly why, based on this and that. on average, they did a pretty good job of building a case and helping prospective buyers understand the important issues in regards to their particular product or service. The result was that the outside perception was generally a pretty good reflection of the company's inside reality. Then the most significant event in the history of marketing and advertising occurred in 1945. Television was commercially introduced to the world for the first time. Up until then, total national distribution of an advertising message was extremely limited to radio, print advertising and a few magazines and maybe the odd catalogue. But with the introduction of TV, large advertisers could buy a TV commercial and reach just about every living person in the United States for $4,000 a minute, usually sold in 1 or 2 minute blocks. And that was a bargain even in 1940s money. But back then the US only had 3 channels, so demand quickly outstripped the supply of commercials and prices shot through the roof. In response to the rising cost, the length of commercials shrank down from 2 minutes to 30 seconds. This meant that advertisers had less time to educate us to the important and relevant issues and build a case as to why they were different or better or unique. So instead of attempting to use shorter ads that highlighted their competitive benefits, advertisers changed tactics and started using slogans. By the mid-50s, when TV was launched in Australia, the model was set and we simply followed suit. That change made it harder and harder for a company's outside perception to accurately reflect its inside reality. But remember that marketing's first job is simply to get the prospect's attention. Even running a 30-second ad, getting attention was still not a problem for these advertisers. But then what? Once you've got the prospect's attention, you then have to facilitate the decision-making process. Companies and their ad agencies figured out that this was a lot harder to do in only 30 seconds, but they also found out they didn't really need to do it because the number of real competitors, that is the number of competitors that could actually afford to advertise on TV and run ads against their ads, was wonderfully few. They could spend a ton of money running 30-second ads and win by default. Now, if there happened to be 2 or 3 major competitors jockeying for the same prospects, like Pepsi and Coke, that was fine because there was plenty of business to divide 2 or even 3 ways. The bottom line is that the company's inside reality and outside perception didn't really have to match up. The lack of choice eliminated this necessity. So the focus for all marketing and advertising shifted to simply getting the prospect's attention. That's when advertising lost its penchant for selling and instead shifted its focus to creativity. The idea now was to get into the consumer's brain with something creative that would stimulate and cause them to recall the product later on when they needed it. That's when slogans became the de facto marketing standard that is still in use today. Do you know this one? As a matter of fact, I've got it now. What about this one? The burgers are better at. How about this one? I like aeroplane. Or football, meat pies, kangaroos and Holden cars. How did you know that? That commercial hasn't run since the 1970s. What about this one? We're happy little Vegemites as bright can be. You see, this new creative approach took over advertising as we know it, and it soon began to filter into all other advertising media, including radio, Google AdWords, newspaper, magazines, billboards, yellow pages, websites, you name it. Once this new creative message was in place, the big companies opened up their checkbooks, spent lots of money, and basically gave people no other option but to remember their message. After hearing things go better with Coke for the 8,000th time, you're going to remember it whether you like it or not. This is called C&R advertising. C for creativity and R for repetition. Create an ad that is unusual, weird, shocking, funny or emotional. Spend $1 billion running that ad about 1 million times and haul your money down to the bank. We called this the era of the brand builders, and in the 1950s, 60s and even into the 70s, it was a no-brainer formula for market dominance for companies with the financial wherewithal to pull this off. And that's when it happened. Ad agencies started running this formula for all of their other clients, even the ones that were smaller and didn't have deep pockets. Business schools started teaching marketing and advertising based on these methods that were being successfully implemented by the largest companies in the world. And they started to churn out graduates who only knew one way to do marketing. Brand builder marketing and advertising became the de facto standard for how you do it. And after a few years, no one even questioned the formula, which brings us to the crux of the problem. All of us alive today, with no exceptions, grew up in an era where almost all of the advertising you've ever seen or heard is a product of the brand builders. Over time, we've all become conditioned as to what constitutes a good ad. We learned the fundamental pattern for what to put into a commercial. We learned about slogans and jingles and being funny. We learned that in marketing and advertising, the outside perception no longer has to reflect the inside reality. Let me repeat what I said at the very beginning of this presentation. Everything you've ever learned about generating leads and growing your business is wrong. And now you know why. And as a result of this new breed of advertising, jargon has now started to dominate all marketing and advertising. Think of jargon as words or phrases that are obvious, commonplace, or predictable. Words that lack power to create interest because of overuse or repetition, but they're still stated as if they are original or significant. In advertising, you see and hear jargon all the time. Since businesses only have 30 seconds to try and tell you what makes them special, they lump everything into jargon such as largest selection, most professional, lowest prices, highest quality, best service, fastest, most convenient, we're the experts, we specialise, works harder, gets the job done the first time and been in business for 4,000 years. Now, listen guys, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be those kinds of things. They actually make up the foundation you want to use to build your inside reality on. But consider this. If my marketing says that I offer high quality and great service, isn't that a little bit commonplace and predictable? Doesn't it sort of lack the power to create interest through overuse or repetition, like lots of other people are saying the same thing? But they're stated as though they were original and significant. Does my inside reality, those things that really make me good at what I do they shine through? Can you tell specifically what makes me valuable to the marketplace? And when I say highest quality or best service, see, you simply can't describe, demonstrate, exhibit, reveal or display your inside reality using jargon. It's impossible. And unfortunately, at the end result is an outside perception that you're no different than anyone else. There's absolutely no distinction, no separation, no differentiation, none. You just can't make your inside reality and outside perception match up when you use jargon like this. In fact, let me give you a couple of ways you can easily and quickly evaluate your own marketing to see if you're getting caught in the jargon trap. Jargon evaluation number one is what we call, well, I would hope so. When you make a claim, don't think about it in terms of the words coming out of your mouth. Think about it in terms of the words entering your prospect's ears. This will show you just how absurd most jargon actually sounds. Look at the messaging in your marketing and then ask yourself if the prospect's immediate response might be, well, I would hope so. Let me give you an example. Recently I saw a TV ad for a car repair business, a mechanic. Throughout the ad, they continuously emphasised the fact their work was of the highest quality. It was fairly priced and they guaranteed 100% satisfaction. Well, I would hope so. Would you hire any mechanic who didn't provide all of those standard parts as a standard part of their service? Or, of course not, you wouldn't. You simply wouldn't hire them. It's what you expect. So this is all jargon. It's commonplace and it lacks the power to generate interest because of overuse or repetition. Or how about this one from a consulting company? Our training leads to change. We increase the productivity, performance and profit of your company. Well, I would hope so. Does anyone hire a consultant for any other reason than to do those things? Most ads today are nothing more than a jargon fest. Does this jargon fest tell you anything about these companies' inside reality? What else would you expect them to say? Everyone's always going to say wonderful things about themselves if they can get away with it. The problem is that if your business has an exceptional inside reality and you're using the same jargon as everybody else, then the outside perception is that you're all the same, and that's when prospects default to the business offering the lowest price, because price now becomes the only determining factor. When you use this simple evaluation, just ask yourself openly and honestly why anyone would choose you over your competition. Then measure your answer against the, well, I would hope so evaluation. And finally, check out all of your advertising and marketing materials, including your website. Do they pass the, well, I would hope so evaluation? Or are they all chock full of jargon? And if they fail, then you need to make changes. Let me give you a second evaluation technique. It's called the who else can say that. Now this is similar to the first evaluation technique, and it's also a product of the era of the brand builders. Pay really close attention to this one. Stop thinking in terms of who else can do what you can do. Instead, think in terms of who else can say what you say. Because the answer, unfortunately, is usually anybody and everybody can say what you say. See, I know of a kitchen guy that ran by far the best kitchen renovation business in his area. Every member of his team had at least 15 years of renovation experience. They were all certified tradies. They had won multiple industry awards. They were the only kitchen business that provided not only a full satisfaction guarantee, but also a 10-year material and labour warranty on everything they did. They left the job site every night cleaner when they first arrived. They also guaranteed they could renovate any kitchen in no more than 5 days, half the time of their competition. This, of course, meant far less disruption and inconvenience to his clients. In short, their inside reality was literally second to none, but they had a huge marketing problem. Their marketing looked virtually identical to all of their competitors. Their marketing said things like certified tradespeople, guaranteed satisfaction, and then a long laundry list of work they performed, such as new cabinets installed, complete kitchen renovations, and so on. Oh, and get this, they accept Visa and MasterCard. Well, I would hope so. But then ask this question, who else can say that? When the owner of the business was asked that very question, he got really defensive. He said, look, there's no other kitchen business that can begin to match the work we do. Our team is far and away the best there is. No one can say what we say. Understandably, this guy was a little bit passionate about and protective of his business when it came to talking about it. After all, he'd worked long and hard to develop this thing over the last 10 years or 15 years, 20 years. So finally, to try and get the point across, we asked him to pull up the website of his 5 biggest competitors to see what all of them were saying on their homepage. Let's just say that his jaw hung open for about 2 minutes straight before he finally pointed out to the screen and said, are you kidding? Look at this website. I know this guy. He's terrible. But his site says the exact same thing as mine. In fact, I think he copied my site word for word. He looked at the other kitchen renovators and he saw that all of their websites were virtually identical to his. So remember, it's not who can do what you can do, it's who can say what you say. And if your marketing is full of jargon, then sadly the answer is all of your competition can. Let me give you one final jargon detection evaluation. It's called the Scratch Out Write In test. Take a look at your brochure or an advertisement or your website. Now scratch out your name and write in your competition's name. That's it. In fact, I did this with a client recently where I wrote in the name of a business that wasn't even in the same industry, and the website still made complete sense. So if your marketing is still valid, if the website still conveys the same basic message, if there wouldn't need to be any additional changes, then guess what? You just failed this test. This evaluation can be really revealing. Most businesses discover that they run fairly high on the jargon meter. You might find that your inside reality, excellent as it may be, is nowhere to be found in your marketing message. It's all but lost in a sea of jargon and completely invisible to your prospective clients. So guys, is this starting to make sense? Are you seeing now that this might be a problem for you and a tremendous competitive advantage if you can figure out how to fix this for your own business? So let me show you how to fix this. Let me explain how you can follow a very simple process we call the conversion equation. And when you do, you'll eliminate jargon forever. I'm going to show you how to become communication savvy and make your outside perception become an excellent reflection of your inside reality, and finally begin to get the results from your marketing that you should be getting. The conversion equation has 4 main components. So let me start with a brief introduction and then I'll get into the detail. The first component in the conversion equation is called interrupt. This is simply the process of getting qualified prospects to pay attention to your marketing. Often this is accomplished by affecting the prospects emotionally. Sounds simple enough, doesn't it? Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a lot more difficult to pull this off in real life unless you understand what you're about to learn. The second component is engage. Once the prospect is interrupted, it's critical to give the reader the promise that information is forthcoming that will help the prospect make the best decision possible, or in other words, facilitate the decision-making process. This is also best accomplished on an emotional level. The third component is educate. Once you've interrupted and engaged the prospect, you have to give them information that allows them to logically understand how and why you solved that emotional problem. This is accomplished by giving detailed, quantifiable, specific, inside reality revealing information. This turns the corner from an emotional sell, remember, you interrupted and engaged them on an emotional hot button, to a logical sell. This is easy to do if you just follow this conversion equation. And the fourth and final component of the conversion equation is the offer. Now the prospect has been interrupted based on problems that are important or to them emotionally, engaged by the promise of a solution to that emotional problem, and they've examined the educational information that makes your solution to that emotional problem real and believable. So the last step for you is to give the prospect a low or better yet a no risk way for them to take the next step in the sales process. Now this can be accomplished by offering a free marketing tool such as a report, a brochure, a seminar, audio, video, or something similar. That educates them even more so the prospect feels in complete control of the decision-making process. This conversion equation follows the formula for what marketing is supposed to do in the first place. In fact, at this point, we can simply say that marketing's job is to interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. Remember earlier we discussed that if you want to know why Jane Doe buys what Jane Doe buys, you've got to see the world through Jane Doe's eyes, right? Well, I would submit to you that if you want to know what Jane Doe sees, you'd better first understand how Jane Doe's brain works, how it processes information and makes decisions. To understand this process, there are three major concepts that I need to teach you, three concepts that, in fact, very few of the world of marketing actually understand, but three concepts that will make all the difference in the world to your marketing's effectiveness and, more importantly, in your business's profitability. The three things you need to know about Jane Doe's brain are downtime, uptime, and the reticular activation system, also known as the reticular activator. So let me begin by discussing that first concept called downtime. Put simply, this is the hypnotic state of running automatic patterns that allows your brain to perform habitual tasks without any conscious thought. You do this all the time. For instance, have you ever driven to work and when you got there you don't remember making the trip? Well, that's downtime. This occurs because driving to work is an habitual pattern that you run so frequently that you don't have to consciously think about it. Have you ever stepped out of the shower and couldn't remember if you'd washed your hair or not? Your brain performs all of these daily routine functions with no conscious thought. Now, here's what downtime means in marketing terms. People see and hear ads with their eyes and ears, but they don't notice them on a conscious level. If you open a newspaper, for instance, you'll be looking at maybe 70% ads and maybe only 30% bona fide news articles. But because the ads are only seen on a downtime level, 9.9 times out of 10, you won't consciously notice them at all. All you'll consciously see is the news, which is what you were there for in the first place. The second concept is what's known as uptime. This is the brain's state of alertness or active engagement. It's like when you're driving on a highway in a heavy thunderstorm and your hands are firmly gripped on the wheel at the 10 and 2 positions and your pupils are as big as saucers. You're sensitive and responsive to everything around you. You're in uptime when you're watching a horror movie and you hear the music start to build to a crescendo in anticipation of something really scary happening. You can think of uptime as your brain going on alert mode, but here's what uptime means when it comes to marketing. When your prospect is in uptime mode, they consciously notice your ad or marketing piece and they're open to your suggestions and solutions. Something captures their attention and compels them to keep paying attention. The key to marketing is to get your prospects out of downtime and into uptime. We want to shake them out of their natural subconscious haze where they never see your ad or marketing piece and into uptime where they're fully conscious and aware of what you're trying to communicate to them. Once you understand how to do this, you'll have the ability to make a fortune from your marketing. But to completely grasp this model, you've got to learn the third and major concept about how Jane Doe's brain works, which is called the reticular activator. The reticular activator is part of the brain that's on the lookout 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when you're asleep. It constantly scans the environment looking for things that fall into any of these three categories: things that are familiar, things that are unusual, or things that are problematic. When the brain detects any of these categories on a subconscious level, it sends a message over to the conscious side of the brain and says, hey, wake up, there's something here you need to pay attention to. And by the way, whenever those familiar, unusual, or problematic things are, We call them activators. In short, your brain on a subconscious level is constantly on the lookout for activators. It's searching for things that are familiar, things that are unusual, or things that are problematic. In other words, things that demand a conscious response. Whenever it finds one, it pokes your conscious brain and it snaps it out of downtime sleep mode and into uptime alert mode. Let me give you an example of the raw power of your own reticular activator. And please don't get grumpy at me for what I'm about to do to you. But I'm going to permanently embed this example directly into your reticular activation system, and I guarantee that you will remember this for the remainder of your life on this planet. Seriously, guys. Here we go. I'm certain that at some point you've either seen a FedEx truck making its deliveries or seen a FedEx parcel. FedEx has been in business since June 18th, 1971, and they've been in countless movies, including that Tom Hanks movie, Castaway. So let me ask you this question. How many times have you seen the FedEx logo? Over the last 40 plus years, they've been in business, I guess maybe you've seen it 100 times. So here's the question number 2. Have you ever seen the hidden message within the FedEx logo? Yep, guys, I'm absolutely serious about the question. Did you know there's a hidden message within every FedEx logo? If you're saying right now that's impossible, you've seen that logo thousands of times and you certainly would have noticed a message in there at some point in time, then join the crowd. 99% of the population have never seen that hidden message. Ready for me to tell you where it is? Next time you see the FedEx logo, look between the E and the X in FedEx. You'll see an arrow that points to the right. It's as plain as day, and yet very few people have ever detected it over these last whatever years. And guess what? That logo was specifically designed that way from the start. It isn't just something that happened by coincidence when the designer created it. Almost no one sees it, but guess what? You will now see it every single time you look at that logo. Why? Because now that I've drawn your attention to it, coupled with the fact that you had no idea that it was there before, the next time you see that arrow, your brain will perceive it to be unusual. And that automatically triggers your reticular activator. Remember, things that are familiar, unusual, or problematic poke your brain and make it pay attention through your reticular activator. But guess what's going to happen next? Now that you know the arrow is there, every time you see that FedEx logo, your brain will immediately seek out that arrow. And as you observe it over and over, the arrow will move from being unusual to being familiar. In both those cases, guess what else happens? You'll only notice the arrow for a second or two because your brain activates when it sees it, moving you from downtime to uptime. But since that arrow isn't really relevant or important to you, your brain quickly reverts back to downtime. So, what does this all have to do with marketing? Well, the short answer, guys, is everything. Understanding what wakes people up so they pay attention is what's going to get our marketing message past the interrupt stage and into the engage stage. And when we engage your prospect, we've just increased our chances of selling to those people, or the people you're trying to engage, by 1,000%. This is going to solve the problem that every other marketer hasn't been able to figure out, which is not just getting them interrupted, but also getting them engaged. Not just finding any old activator, but finding the right activator. Any idiot can simply interrupt people. In fact, that's actually really easy to do. The so-called marketing gurus do it all the time. They prefer to use activators that are based on things that are familiar and unusual because they're the easiest to pull off. Have you ever noticed how many different kinds of animals you see in advertising? That's because animals are familiar and likable, and the idea is that those animals will interrupt you by poking your conscious brain when they're detected by your reticular activator. St. George has its dragon, Dulux has its sheepdog, the Bundy Rum has its polar bear. You constantly see dancing elephants, talking dogs, and finicky cats. All of these animals have good interim value based on their familiarity. There's also that's also the major reason that big advertisers use celebrities, familiarity. And what about activators based on unusual things? Well, that's what creativity is all about. Creativity's main purpose in advertising is to dream up something so weird, so strange, so shocking, so unusual that'll snap you out of downtime and into uptime, otherwise known as interrupt. But here's the key. Here's what no one else seems to understand, and what may just be the most important thing you'll learn in this presentation. Once your brain is activated, once it's been broken out of downtime and into uptime alert mode, it wants to engage. So it immediately and subconsciously searches for additional clarifying information. The brain wants to know, hey, what's this all about? How does this affect me? Do I need to do anything about this? Literally, on a subconscious level, the brain goes on a fact-finding mission. The bottom line is the brain wants to know, how is this important and relevant to me? Should I allocate any conscious bandwidth to this? It searches for additional facts. If it finds them, it becomes engaged. If not, it will quickly revert back into downtime. We call these important, relevant issues hot buttons. If you're a golf fan and your reticular activator detects that Greg Norman is on the television, it notices that on a conscious level. Greg Norman's familiar, he's an activator. Then your brain immediately asks, hey, what's Greg Norman doing driving a Holden Statesman? Is there anything here that's relevant or important to me? Or in other words, is this a hot button issue for me at this point in my life? What typically happens is your brain determines that a Holden Statesman is not important or relevant to you. It doesn't do anything to solve any of your problems, and therefore it's not a hot button, and so your brain immediately reverts back into downtime. So let me be crystal clear here. An activator is something that snaps a person from downtime to uptime, and it's based on something that's familiar, unusual, or problematic. But an activator can also be classified as a hot button if and only if it's based on something that's important and relevant to your prospect. Your best bet to successfully interrupt and engage your target market is to identify problems, frustrations, uncertainties, and annoyances that your prospects have, and then address them in your marketing. Their pain, in most cases, is their hot button, and please don't think this is some form of manipulation. All we're doing here is tapping into the problems that your prospects already have. We're not trying to manufacture a crisis for them. We're merely poking their problems and pointing out those problems so that their reticular activator notices and brings us onto their active radar screen. Now, here's the key point of all of this, and one that none of the big ad agencies seem to understand, but one that you need to know in order to make all this work for you. The activators that are used to interrupt the prospect must be based on a relevant hot button. If not, the prospect will momentarily be interrupted, but will quickly revert from uptime back into downtime, and this is what's called false uptime. Have you ever heard someone call out your name in a crowded room? That immediately interrupts you because your name is familiar. But when you turn around to see who it was calling you, you realize, oops, they're actually calling out to someone else with my name. Your name is an activator, but because in that situation your name wasn't important or relevant to you, it didn't engage you. You quickly reverted back into downtime. That's what we call false uptime. Remember what I said about the FedEx logo. Now that you know the arrow is there, every time you see it, your brain will immediately seek it out because it's unusual. But the more often you see it, the arrow shifts from being unusual to being familiar. Then you'll only notice it for a second or two, and then your brain quickly reverts back into downtime because the arrow isn't relevant or important to you. This happens in marketing and advertising all the time. Most marketing interrupts, but it doesn't engage. Just like Greg Norman and Holden, he's famous and you like golf, so it captures your attention. It interrupts you. But when you find out that it's not based on anything that's important to you, when there's nothing relevant, nothing that solves some problem that you have, you quickly revert to downtime. This is one of the things that almost no one understands, and one of the main reasons everything you've ever learned about marketing is wrong. You've been conditioned to believe that as long as you interrupted the prospect, that's it. That's good enough. The job's done. But you have to realize that if you only interrupt the prospect, that's only 1/4 of the conversion equation. You've got to include all 4 components: interrupt, engage, educate, and offer to get the maximum result from your marketing and advertising. Now, when it comes to actually writing the marketing, we typically like to portray the hot button in the form of a headline. The headline is the first opportunity you have to interrupt Jane Doe. You've got maybe 1 to 3 seconds maximum to interrupt the prospect, so you'd better make sure that that headline has an activators in it, and those activators are based on things that are important and relevant to that prospect. Remember, hot buttons, words and phrases that describe problems or frustrations that the prospect is feeling so that their reticular activator latches onto them and snaps them out of uptime. In print advertising, magazines, newspapers, yellow pages and so forth, the form of the headline is obvious. In radio, it's the headline is the first sentence they hear. On Google AdWords, it's the first bit of the text they read. On television, it's the first thing they see and hear. In brochures, business cards, other marketing collateral, and your company's website, it's the first thing they see. Let me give you 2 quick examples. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about daycare, and secondly, a child psychologist who works with kids with behavioural problems. When I ask most daycare providers why parents should choose them instead of the 17 other local daycares, they almost always give me the same boring answers: high quality, attention to detail, we supervise our staff better, we're honest, we've taken care of more than 200 kids, and so on. Nothing but jargon. Unfortunately, this exact same jargon shows up in boring, ineffective headlines. For instance, when I looked at the marketing of various daycares, they said things like this: safe, nurturing, creative environment, optimise your child's development, acclaimed by thousands of parents, accredited by industry professionals, a leader in early childhood care and education. Those are all real headlines from real ads, jargon and more jargon, but note this as well: all these headlines speak to the daycare, not to the prospect. You could place the word "we" in front of all that jargon and it would fit perfectly. We optimise your child's development. We're acclaimed by thousands of parents. Prospects don't care about the daycare. They care about themselves and their children. None of those headlines address the problems or concerns of the parent, do they? If you really want to interrupt John and Jane Doe, you've got to use much more powerful language than that to get them to respond on an emotional level. How about this headline to effectively communicate the concept of a safe and nurturing creative environment? Ever felt like your daycare treated your child like a number instead of a little person? Or how about this one, to convey being a leader in early childhood care and education? Is your daycare's idea of good educational curriculum watching Barney on TV? Or this one, introducing a daycare centre that doesn't consider mac and cheese to be one of the 4 major food groups? All of these headlines work in tandem with close-up pictures that work to reinforce this powerful and compelling message. That headline that said, ever felt like your daycare treated your child like a number instead of a little person, next to it is a 4-year-old child sitting in the corner with his head buried in his hands crying. Talk about powerful, emotional and compelling. Talk about interrupting. See how these headlines speak to the issues of the prospect instead of the daycare. See how they reflect the fanatical attention to detail that is the foundation of this daycare's inside reality. Or, of course, you can see because it's really, really obvious. Now, what about the child psychologist who works with kids with serious behavioural problems? Most of these types of professionals say things like, we offer parenting advice and resources. We can help get your child under control. Learn the secrets of well-behaved children. As a parent with an out-of-control child, why would I want to know the secrets to well-behaved children? See what I mean when I say no one is getting it, that everything you know about marketing is wrong. If you have a child that embarrasses you in public, that's basically uncontrollable and unmanageable, then aren't you desperate for a solution for that behaviour? What if the child psychologist used this headline? Are you sick and tired of the yelling, screaming and belligerent attitude of your child? Doesn't that immediately address the conversation going on in the heads of these parents? Won't that headline immediately interrupt them and knock them out of downtime into uptime? Of course it will. Consider the example of this furniture removal business. Most removalist ads and websites have headlines that say something like moving. Most of them have their company name for the headline along the top of the website, and marketing material or local and long distance. Why in the world would you ever say something like that? However, by changing their marketing so it followed the conversion equation, their new ad and web copy pulled an astounding 12 times more than their original ad. They went from averaging just 70 calls per month to 955 calls, and their conversion rate skyrocketed from 16% to 68%. Let me put this another way. This removal business, just by changing what their ad said, went from generating 11 sales per month to a whopping 649 sales per month. Their new ad generated so much new business they had to partner with 4 of their competitors to help them handle the demand for their services. Oh, and by the way, those same 4 competitors bought out that removal business 9 months later for $2 million, all due to following the conversion equation in their marketing. So what exactly was it that generated these fantastic results? Well, the new ad and website featured a headline that said last year over 4,350 complaints and lawsuits were filed against moving companies in Dallas. We work worldwide, guys, which is why I'm using a Dallas example. Got your attention? You bet it does, because it hits on the prospect's hot buttons of uncertainty and problems that might arise when they move. When they go on to then they go on to describe what to look for and what to watch out for when moving. It educates the prospect as to what standards they should use to find the best value when hiring a moving company. Okay, to wrap up this discussion about Interrupt Engage, let me address the topic of engage specifically just for a moment. To successfully engage, all you have to do is use a headline or subheadline that promises the reader that if they will keep reading or listening to the ad, they will get information that will facilitate their marketing, facilitate them making the best decision possible. Not sales information, not here's how great we are information, but rather bona fide decision facilitating information. Sometimes the headline itself will engage, but more frequently it's the subheadline that makes the promise to educate and therefore engages. So let's go back to the daycare, and we're going to wrap this up very quickly, guys. Let's go back to the daycare and continue that example. Remember the one that said, ever felt like your daycare treated your child like a number instead of a little person? The follow-up engage subheadline would simply say, how to ensure your child gets personal, loving, caring, one-on-one attention at daycare. Or the headline that said, is your daycare's idea of a good educational curriculum watching Barney on TV? The follow-up headline that engages says, how would you like your child to be reading at a first grade level before starting kindergarten? In both cases, these subheadlines clarify the first headline and let the reader know that if they keep reading the ad, they can expect to find specific details regarding each of these major hot button issues. In short, these subheadlines engage the child psychologist that used the headline, are you sick and tired of the yelling, screaming and belligerent attitude of your child? His headline said this, now you can discover the secrets to controlling your child and instantly restore peace and quiet in your home. Show me just one parent experiencing this sort of behaviour from their own child who wouldn't immediately respond to this ad. The moving ad, remember they had the headline, last year over 4,350 complaints and lawsuits were filed against moving companies in Dallas. It had a subheadline that reads as follows, ask these 15 questions to make sure that your moving company's policies, procedures and standards will protect you from an unpleasant moving experience. So, do you think you might find, if you decide to keep reading the rest of this ad or website, that's right, you think you might find the 15 things to be aware of and to look out for when choosing a mover? The subheadline engages the reader to continue reading to find out the decision facilitating information. And that brings us to the third and fourth components of the conversion equation very quickly. Educate and offer. I mentioned earlier that in the presentation that every marketing piece should contain a risk-lowering offer to encourage the prospect to take the next step, and that offer should generally be to receive additional information, or in other words, to further educate the prospect and to build your case. Now, here's the real key to success in marketing. The right offer allows you to capture a large percentage of all future buyers in addition to those looking to buy right now. There's an educational process the prospects go through from the moment they begin thinking about buying your product or service to the point where they actually complete the purchase. Most marketing only caters to those now buyers who will be making a purchase decision in the very near future and does nothing or very little to educate those who are just thinking about it right now, but who might buy later. Here's the problem with that. At any given moment, the number of prospects who are ready to buy from you right now represent no more than 1 to 5% of all those who are ultimately going to buy what you guys sell. You've got 95 to 99% of your prospects who are in the thinking about it and gathering information mode, but when you're attempting to gather information, when they're attempting to gather information, I say you don't give it to them. This is where the fourth component of the conversion equation becomes absolutely huge. Your offer gives you the opportunity to provide additional educational information to the gathering information mode prospects and, in the process, capture valuable information about who these people are so that you can proactively market to them on an ongoing basis. This allows you to take control of your target market. The daycare that we've been talking about makes a perfect example of this. How many of the parents that see that ad for daycare, remember the one that says, ever felt like your daycare treated your child like a number instead of a little person? Or the one that said, is your daycare's idea of good educational curriculum watching Barney on TV? Remember those? How many of those readers do you think are ready to and waiting to relocate the child from their current daycare to this daycare, and were relieved to see this ad so they could finally make the switch. Well, my guess, maybe 1%, maximum, are now buyers. Maybe 1% are now buyers. But because the headline, subheadline and images are so powerful, because they do such a good job of interrupting and engaging a lot more parents who are not ready to buy right this minute are going to see those ads, pay attention and be interested. These powerful ads could easily compel as many as 10, 15 or even 25% of the parents who read these ads to seriously contemplate changing daycare services. But if the ads only offer is the typical one that most daycares put in their ads, call for a free consultation, then none of those future buyers are going to call. Why would they? If you're not ready to make a change or decision, why on earth would you call now for a free consultation? You wouldn't. Furthermore, the ad itself is relatively limited in size. The daycare can't possibly cram their entire case with all of its associated evidence right there in the ad. It just won't fit. This is why we recommend that the daycare provide what we call an informational offer. That they, what if they offered everyone who called a free report titled 10 things 10 things your daycare may not tell you. Oops, what happened there? 10 things your daycare may not tell you. This report uncovers the 10 critical areas all parents must know and investigate before they place their child in with anyone offering daycare services. This relevant report compares the 17 most popular area daycares against each other in all 10 of these areas, saving the parents their time, effort and energy when making an all-important decision as to who will be watching their child. But here's the really neat part about having this type of offer. When the parents do call or go online to request the free report, the daycare can now capture that prospect's contact information and proactively market to them from now until when they make a decision. Then the daycare could set up what we call a nurture campaign to consistently and repetitively follow up these interested parents and keep providing them with additional decision-making information until they finally become ready to buy. Depending on what you guys are selling, and you've got all sorts of services that you're selling, including the defibrillators, and the specific situation where there are actually 8 different types of informational offers that we create and offer your prospects. And if we want to dominate your marketplace, we've got to get your offers right. Hopefully, this is sort of all coming together for you now. So just to finish off, guys, interrupt, engage, educate, and offer make up the conversion equation. And that equation is literally the backbone of all the incredibly successful marketing campaigns we've ever put together. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. You can probably tell from the depth of information in this presentation that we've got a bona fide step-by-step system that helps business owners, just like you, become financially free using superior marketing that makes your phone ring. Remember, earlier I said that our system works for big blue chip companies and all kinds of companies. Well, our passion doesn't lie with helping huge soulless corporations. Our passion actually is for you guys, the small and medium-sized business owner who has to scrape and fight and battle every day just to earn a living. So to help you with to help you with that, Physio Control engaged Purple Thread Marketing to provide everyone who's registered for today's session with a free marketing makeover. Now, here's how it works. We spend 60 minutes online in a meeting together, so I don't come to your premises. We spend 60 minutes online, and I guarantee I'll find you a minimum of $10,000 that's currently trapped inside your existing marketing. I'll show you where it is, and I'll show you how to put it in your pocket. Now, this is complimentary. This has been covered by Physio Control. I will genuinely, in 60 minutes, show you how to improve your marketing. I'll give you at least 3 strategies that you can put in place that will cost you no money to put in place, that will release a minimum of $10,000 trapped inside your current marketing. Now, if you'd like to arrange for your free marketing makeover, just drop me an email to the address on your screen right now. I'll get back to you with details of how we organise it. Thanks for investing your time with me today. Now, additionally, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, once again, just drop me an email and I'll get back to you normally within sort of 24 hours. Thanks again for sharing your time with us today. I wish you every success, and bye for now, guys.